Welcome to the channel, everybody. So today we are going to be continuing on and nearly wrapping up our quest for Cavalier. I have been spending all day today working on editing, and I will be spending most of the day tomorrow on editing as well, so that we can get that last video out on Tuesday and for the Cavalier series here, as well as be pushing through to getting the rest of the Paragon series pushed out. Plus, we're going to start a couple other video series. So please stay tuned for those. We are also obviously going to be continuing our Sunday lives and our Monday crystal openings. Going to be a pretty big one coming up this Monday. But let's go ahead and get in here and take a look at 6.1.5, since this will bring us one level away from being Paragon after we complete this. Now, I'm going to tell you that the path that I chose here is probably the easiest Corvus path you could do. If you happen to have Corvus, you can walk through this path and do quite a bit against Crossbones, especially if you have a second or third poison immune champion to bring in with you. Obviously, the two poison immune champions I have on the team here, Captain Marvel movie and Hulk, are my two biggest I currently have on this account. You can see we're not dealing with 565 5 stars even. Okay, and Hulk isn't even awakened here. My Tiger isn't awakened here. Obviously, yes, we do have Aegon as a 6-star to do a little bit of work on the path. We have Apocalypse as a 6-star to do some work on the path. And you're going to see some very big numbers here. And I think this is one of the things, was just actually talking with some of my officers in my alliance, that I think people get caught up on, is the idea that your numbers are so much smaller. I mean, especially when you look at like Hulk even here at just over 10k. When we go against Crossbones at the end at over 65k, I can understand where you're worried that maybe you need that bigger champion. But I do want to keep you guys encouraged that sometimes what you really need to do is just build up some units, build up some potions, build up some revives, and just go ahead and get through it. Push with your best champions. Yes, this is definitely one of those levels that if you do not have a good poison immune champion, you're not going to get past it. You need that for Crossbones at minimum. I will tell you the other thing about this path that we're going to go through is it does remove the Bane node, which in this particular fight could actually be more of your friend to have active than to not. But like I said, we still go ahead and get through this. I may go ahead and demonstrate this one later on with my main account with the champions I actually used to get through it. Mostly because they were all maxed out at the time that I did. They're all 5 stars. So it really wouldn't be that much different than when I went through it, but it would show, obviously with the right champions, you can walk through this very easily. But even without the perfect counters, as long as you've got the Crossbones fight covered and you pick your path wisely, you can get through this one and get on to that last chapter and get your title. So let's go ahead and take a look at how I did this, what mistakes I made, and what you're going to be looking at along the way. So right off the bat here, let's go ahead and talk about the path. Your first opponent that you're going to face is going to be Superior Iron Man. He does have enhanced armor breaks, as well as he is extra aggressive, so keep this in mind. The other thing to keep in mind is he has aspects of Nightmare, which what that is for the first 12 seconds of the fight, you are going to degen 50% of your health. So keep that in mind if for some reason you have to go in against him a second time, which you'll actually see me do, to make sure that you go in with at least 60% health. Because after those 12 seconds, as long as you don't die during that time, you will instantly regen 50% of your health. Next up, after Superior Iron Man, you're going to have Falcon. Now, Falcon does have stun immunity and heal prevention, as well as masochism. Now, keep in mind with the masochism, every time you throw a debuff on him, it's going to instantly get purified, and he's going to regen 5% of his health. There is a cooldown of 7 seconds on that, so if you're doing multiple debuffs on him at once, you can still benefit yourself, especially if you have somebody that's going to apply multiple bleeds, multiple poisons, multiple shocks, whatever, so that you can go ahead and do that. After you get done with him, you're going to have Sabretooth, who has enhanced bleed, enhanced fury, and immunity to bleed. And then you're going to go over to Venom, who has amnesia, which is going to push his genetic memory up to a full 20 effects. So keep that in mind. He's going to be a bit more strong and also have more potency to him. He also has enhanced bleed duration, or enhanced bleed potency, as well as outlast. So the amount of damage you're doing gets reduced by the amount of health that he has lost. So the longer the fight goes on, the less effective your hits are going to be against him. Next up, you're going to go over to She-Hulk, who has increased stun duration, immunity to bleed, as well as vigor. So every 15 seconds, she is going to regen 50% of her health. But every time you get her to a 25% of her health benchmark, that actually resets the timer, and that gives you a little bit of a window to get a little more down off of her. After She-Hulk, you're going to go over to Old Man Logan, who is immune to stun, and it has increased bleed duration as well as aggression, whereas that he is going to be gaining a precision buff every 2 seconds, though you can reset that timer and remove those buffs with every hit that you land upon him. Finally, before the boss fight here, you're going to go over to Winter Soldier, who, like I said, does remove that Bane node off of the boss of Crossbones. Now, Winter Soldier himself has enhanced Fury and True Strike, as well as Buffet. So whenever you trigger a buff upon yourself, he is going to get a 15% regen. That does have a 7-second cooldown on it, so if you're triggering multiple buffs quickly, you can get the benefit without triggering too much on him. Just be aware that you are going to be regenning him if you're using a champion that's constantly triggering buffs. Lastly here, we are going to go over to the Crossbones fight. Now, this one is one of the harder fights. It's well known to be. Now, Crossbones can have the possibility of having Bane on there. Now, what Bane does is whichever one of you lands the first punch puts a degen timer on the other one, and that degen timer remains and ticks away at your health until either it runs out of time, or whichever one of you has it on you lands a punch upon the other, and then it switches. So what you want to do is make sure that you're timing your combos, so right as that timer is about to run out on him and switch over to you, you're landing a punch on him and switching immediately back to him. You're also going to make sure that you're parrying and evading. This is if you were to choose another path and leave the Bane node up. This can benefit you because of his high health pool to go ahead and do so. But obviously, if you're taking the path that we're suggesting here, that is not going to be an option for you. He will have Force of Will still active, which does make him immune to ability reduction accuracy. The things that you are going to need to worry about is he does have increased stun duration, arc overload. Every 2 seconds, he is going to get an armor up buff and regen for 6 seconds. Keep those in mind. But the most important of all is his poison debuff that he is going to apply to you. That poison debuff will degen 100% of your health over 30 seconds. That means you've either got to beat him in 30 seconds or you need a poison immune champion. Trust me, you need a poison immune champion. We brought in Captain Marvel movie as well as Hulk, and we'll see how this went. I'll talk about where we made some moves that went right, where we could have done things a little better, and how this could have worked. I do advise having a few potions on hand, having several revives on hand, and making sure that you have a few units available to you. If you are not 100% confident on this, you can still get through this and get onto that last level. Cavalier is within reach. Don't hold yourself back, guys. So let's go ahead and take a look. Like I said, this obviously, I can do this a lot easier on the main account where we push through this quite a bit. We have better champions at that point in time. But this is proof that just using those that you have available to you can make all the difference in the world. So let's go ahead and get over here into the Superior Iron Man fight. Now, I did pre-mention right off the bat that I did make a couple mistakes in spite of having Tigra here, who I think is a wonderful counter to this fight. You just have to keep in mind, first off, you saw at the beginning there, those first 12 seconds while we were degenning, and then having that completely come back to us was easily enough able to deal with. The thing about it is that Superior Iron Man does have a couple range specials, which are nice to have Tigra available to guarantee that he misses. But if you do mess up, especially with him being aggressive, he will get in there and just pummel on you. And that is where we made the mistake the first time and had to revive and come back in and go ahead and finish this. But as you can see, we were able to do that fairly easy. Now, I did go ahead and bring Apocalypse in here against Falcon. Obviously, he does have the class advantage as well as the ability to become bleed immune, which not only is that going to help us in this fight, but it is going to set us up well for a couple fights that are going to be coming up down the road. So that was important to us. Now, I did mention previously the idea that Corvus is wonderful for this. Obviously, this would be your Avenger fight right here. There is obviously mutants on the path. This is, again, like I said, you can get several of your charges. You do have a couple evade champions as well. So get in there and look at it that way if you're going to run that. But at the same time, this is very possible. You're seeing here very much so that we are doing this path 100% without Corvus. But again, just trying out some different champions and able to still go ahead and get through this. We did make a couple mistakes against Falcon here, obviously, but we were able to go ahead and get him down. The only thing that I really should have done differently would have been to bring Apocalypse back in with a bit more health. I was using small energy revives on him, and that really wasn't doing it for him. That 20% health is just quite a little to work with. So we went ahead and let him do the work against Sabretooth here, not only because of the fact that he now had the bleed immunity, which is extremely important in this fight because Sabretooth does have quite a bit of bleed going on here. But at the same time, too, we were able to go ahead and get our full generic charges. So we were going to be doing the maximum amount of power that we could do with him. This isn't our best gameplay with Apocalypse by any means. We actually just put out a video a few days ago showing some absolutely wonderful Apocalypse gameplay. But, putting him in at that slight advantage of walking in with limited health and still having him do quite a bit of work here. Obviously, if we would have taken him in with 50 or 60% health, we could have probably walked through a couple of these fights a little bit easier and not have had to regen, because we don't slip up too much, but it's just enough to open up quite a bit. Again, here coming in against Venom, went ahead and did Apocalypse yet again for the bleed immunity. So we want to make sure that we were taking care of that for several people here. This is, again, one of those places that having the right counters can make a difference, but they are not 100% necessary. It just kind of depends on how much you can be careful on allowing some of those things to slip up. Just keep in mind, guys, again, there are so many amazing counters in this game for any kind of dynamic. There are definitely paths that are easier for particular champions, but you don't always have to wait until you get to that champion. because there is always a way to find that you can get through it. Talk to your alliance mates. Watch more videos other than just my own. Check other people's sites, other people's suggestions, and figure out what works for your roster. You can do quite a bit to get through some of these paths and get to those further progressions. And one of the things about it is obviously we're seeing it right now with July 4th deals, and we've seen it previously, and it's just going to continue to get worse as Kabam does add more and more titles to the game. It is important to take the time to go ahead and push through and earn these titles. Obviously, we're doing this on the backup account to make sure that we have the title there. Eventually, we'll push that account up further. But for the moment, that priority, if you're trying to become very active, especially on a main account, if you're trying to do what's best for yourself, what's best for your alliance, pushing through these levels and just going ahead and getting through them, using your best champions, looking through occasionally leveling up champions for levels that are coming up, or making sure that you have resources on hand when you get to a particular level like this where you do need like a poison immune champion or a good bleed immune champion. Having those available to you can make a world of difference. Obviously, you saw here the plan was to go with Aegon against She-Hulk and to just go ahead and outpower her over time. But unfortunately, even at a 56-point combo, we're still doing quite a bit to fight against that regen. This is another one where if we would have brought in somebody who could have put heal immunity on her or heal prevention or anything like that, if we could have also brought in maybe somebody who could do a lot of debuff damage, so that a high bleed, high poison, we could have done quite a bit to go ahead and keep fighting against that regen and maybe not have drugged this fight out as long as we did here. But it is one of those things that is an example, guys. If you've got a few resources, take some time, grind some arena. That's another thing that I'll mention that just came up with one of my alliance mates the other day. He had gotten all the way to the Grandmaster and had him down to about 25% health, and was like, I'm out of resources. What do I do? Back out. Don't quit the level. Just back out of the level. Go over to arena. Grind up arena for a few hours, build up your units, build up your battle chips, go ahead and take and cash those in, pick up a few units, and go back in and buy the potions and revives that you need and finish the fight, guys. You don't want to waste the resources, but don't be afraid to use the resources. Sometimes it is necessary. It doesn't have to be perfect. You don't have to worry about, oh my God, everybody else I see does this is so perfectly. And, there's so many tutorials out there on how to do this with no potions and no revives, and I just can't seem to do it. Don't hold yourself up on that, guys. 100%. One of the things about it is on the main account, when we started the channel in late November, we had just beaten these exact levels that we're going over right now. I had just recently become Cavalier on the account, and just a few days ago, we actually broke Paragon. That's just a few months' time with making sure that we were taking our resources, utilizing them to our best, doing our resource and pushing forward. Obviously, we could have probably even gotten through it faster if I wasn't tied up with leadership of an alliance and running the channel and so many other things. Obviously, at the end of beating a level, you guys don't have to go edit it and commentate it and everything else like I'm doing here, so you don't have that slowdown. But at the same time, you might have to slow down because you may have went through every unit you had, every potion you had, every revive you had, and you need to go farm up some more. And there's nothing wrong with that. Take the time, go farm them up, get what you need, and move on to the next fight. Guys, you guys can do this. It's not something to hold yourself back on. And honestly, the further that you progress, the easier it is to get those champions that you're waiting on. The easier it is to get the resources to push your champions to the levels that you're waiting on. Unfortunately, that's exactly how this game is designed. You're going to be able to go back through and cheese your way through 100%ing Act 4, Act 5, Act 6 without a problem by the time you get through Act 7. Okay? Because the amount of resources that you're going to be sitting there with, and the amount of champions you're going to be sitting there with, the leveled up champions that you're going to have, the champions that you're going to sit there and go, oh my god, I wish I had this champion at this point in time, is going to be enormous. But that doesn't happen until you push through to get to these progression levels. So guys, even if you're having a hard time against somebody, and especially if it's somebody like, okay, you just saw here, I wasted all my charges with Captain Marvel movie, the charges that I need for the final fight, and that's a mistake that was made. Having her go in at 20 or 22 charges so that I could easily parry 1 or 2 times and go ahead and trigger full binary would have made a huge difference for Crossbones. Instead, I have to turn around and fully revive up Apocalypse to get in here and finish off Winter Soldier. And so not only did I use extra resources, but then I've got Captain Marvel movie not charged up where I want her. You saw there that we did switch out for Apocalypse for Rogue. She was not brought in for fighting purposes. She was brought in for synergy purposes. But I will tell you this much. I probably should have brought in a synergy less for Captain Marvel movie and more for Hulk here. Not that Captain Marvel movie isn't going to do quite a bit of the work for us here, but the fact that, honestly, he has so much power, we could have probably done quite a bit more to boost him, and she's already at a higher level and awakened, so she has more available to her naturally. So having both of them being able to play off of one another the way that we're trying to do here, you can see going in with very few charges, I had to ramp up. Now, taking the time to ramp up against a boss this size can be a little touchy, because all it does right there, you can saw we got up to 19 charges, and then he caught us, triggered off before we were ready to set off, and instantly right back down. So it is one of those things that you guys gotta take the time. You're gonna see I'm gonna do this a couple times here where we're gonna get most of the way to where I want to be to actually trigger off. The downside to having the special constantly draining on you so that you can't get above more than 1 bar of power is definitely a pain, because it does limit some of the things that we could have done. Because, obviously if we were at 3 bars of power and got triggered at 20, it's not going to be as perfect, but we could have done quite a bit of damage to him. We did go ahead and bring in Hulk again just to go ahead and try and do a little bit more to him. Another one that is kind of limited here, I can't do the proper Hulk juggle because I need to get to 1.5 bars of power before I try and start the juggle, and I can't go above 1 bar of power. So again, definitely one of those things that you got to kind of play the level, not always the champions. So it is very possible here. Now you're going to see here, coming in with 20 charges, you're going to see the complete and total difference here of coming in properly charged up compared to coming in with no charges whatsoever, because we don't have to do quite as much. Now you'll see here that obviously 2 things. First off, there were 2 parries there that we pulled off that they didn't give us charges for. That was a slight hindrance, but obviously we just kept going. As well as, we could have set off the special one a little bit sooner and pushed ourselves up to 23, and then we would have only needed 1 more parry to go ahead and do this. But as you can see here, he was over 50% health before we triggered the binary, and now we've got him down to just over 30% health here after being able to beat quite a bit of him there. If we could have came in here from the very initial, taking off that much of his health, because we already had her prepped, We could have done this in 1 or 2 less revives than what we used here, but it was still one of those things that we had the potions, we had the revives. We went ahead, just kept her going until we got all the way to the end here. And we were able to do quite a bit. I will tell you guys, if you're able to spend, there's a great $20 potion and revive bundle in the shop under the Kabam store. That one does quite a bit. If you're not spending in the game, as we spend very little on this account whatsoever, or if you're completely free to play, just make sure you farm up your units, your potions, and your revives, and you can go ahead and finish a fight like this and move on. I want to celebrate you guys' victories together, so feel free to go ahead and hit me up as you're getting further and further on this. We have a Discord channel. I have a line chat that you can hit me up on. Show me your crystal openings, things like that. If you want me to commentate any of them, I'm more than willing to do so. If you want to talk about game advice, things like that, how to maybe look at your champions a different way and see who can help you get through some of these levels, feel free to reach out to me in that way. We'll always find a way to get you guys there a little bit further. That's what we do. We are a great community and we try and grow together. Find yourself some good places to talk to people and get more advice, because these are very doable no matter what levels your champions are at. By the time you get here, you really should be seeing some decent champions on your roster that'll help you get through it, as we just did, leaving you right there to one away from the next title. And we're going to go ahead and finish that up on Tuesday. Like I said, I'm going to have a Paragon and the last Cavalier video out both on Tuesday. We're going to do a crystal opening and actually have a fan submitted crystal opening that are both going to be coming out on Monday. We'll be doing some stuff with the 4th of July deals as well on Monday, so that'll be big for the opening on that one. I expect to see some amazing things come out of that. So stay tuned on that one. Make sure you guys, if you have a chance, stop in this Sunday for the live stream. Don't forget, we are doing a fan tournament for Battlegrounds this season. It is going to be 3 stars. We're going to be talking about that a little bit more in the live stream tomorrow night. So please go ahead and stop in, and I will see you guys back for the next one. Peace out.